will game day be in Knoxville if we take care of Mizzou? So here's my answer. Rustin's shaking his head yes. I'm going to share my screen and show you the schedule for week 12 in the entire country. I do think it's important to mention that game day is going to be in Athens this upcoming week for Ole Miss, Georgia. So they're already going to be there this week. That means they would have back-to-back weeks of Georgia games, which has happened in the past. I mean, that's not unprecedented. But I would venture to guess if they felt like there was another game that was worthy of it, they would go to that one instead. But as you're about to see on this diagram here, I'll zoom in so you can see it better. On ESPN.com here, there's really not a better game that week. So these are the top 25 games for week 12. Minnesota at Ohio State, Georgia at Tennessee, Michigan at Maryland, North Alabama at Florida State, Washington at Oregon State. That one could potentially give it a run for its money. Oregon at Arizona State, Texas at Iowa State, Oklahoma at BYU, Louisiana Monroe at Ole Miss, Rutgers at Penn State, Florida at Missouri, Louisville at which that one would not be it, because if we beat Missouri this week, then they're definitely not going to go to Florida, Missouri. Louisville, Miami, Georgia State, LSU, Utah at Arizona, UCLA at USC. That one won't be it. Kansas State at Kansas. They might. They shouldn't, but they might. Oklahoma State at Houston, Tulane at Florida Atlantic. The Moccasins, or actually now it's Mockingbirds. Sorry. Yeah, Mockingbirds of Chattanooga, UTC, in our hometown here. At Alabama, Wake Forest, Notre Dame, and UNLV at Air Force. So of those games, there's really only two that could potentially give it a run for its money. Kansas State at Kansas, which I don't think they'll go there. I do think if Oregon State wins this week, it might be tough to not go to Oregon State, because they can make the case of, oh, this is their last year in the Pac-12. This might be the last time they're not going to be in the ACC, because ACC was like, no, thank you. So we don't even know what conference they'll be in next year. Maybe they'll throw them a bone since they went to Georgia this week. But I tend to agree with Rustin. Based on the other games next week, it is hard to imagine that they would go anywhere other than Georgia, Tennessee, especially if Ole Miss beats Georgia this week. Because if Ole Miss beats Georgia this week, then that game, and Tennessee beats Missouri, then that game is for the SEC East crown. So if that's the case, then surely they're going to be at that game. Surely. But if Ole Miss loses to Georgia this week, then it kind of takes the glisten off of that game a little bit.
I don't think there's any doubt they'll be in Knoxville for game day that day, because about 6-7 weeks ago, ESPN laid off a bunch of people. They won't miss out on an opportunity for ratings and money. They need the money.
Yeah, that's fair.
ESPN is struggling. They need money. And they know when they look at that list right there, which viewers are going to create the biggest money revenue stream for them. And they could not care less. That Pac-12, there's two Pac-12 games that actually kind of matter. They won't even pay attention to those because they don't make them any money. Nobody stays up to watch Pac-12 games. So they're just not, they went to Utah a few weeks ago and it was one of their lowest ratings weekends ever. So they're never doing that again. They can't afford to. ESPN needs every dime they can get. So they're going to go to the biggest money ratings place, which is hands down Tennessee, Georgia. They know where the money is. They're not going to shy away from it.
That's a great point.